You're listening to
FM.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Forward Movement Show. I'm Dan Formless. Tonight I've got Mike Wallis, the man behind Colony Productions, as my very special guest. He's so special that there's actually a documentary filmmaker on the line from Maryland in America. His name's Max. He's going to be using all this footage to cut something together, all about the 25 years of Mike making music and running his label. I think I've said enough to embarrass him, and hopefully we're going to cut across to him blushing now.
A little bit.
Mike, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm sorry we've been holding you in this studio all afternoon.
No, it's been fun.
It'll be dark before you leave. But let me just make sure this camera is running. There we go. We got you.
Nice.
Great. Okay. So I think we've encountered every gremlin possible in this studio. Everything was fine until you arrived.
It was.
But luckily we've got Paul on the controls, so he's spotting things like cameras switching themselves off. So 25 years of, is that making music? Is that running Colony?
So Colony's going to be 25 in 2026.
Right.
But I've been making music for even longer than that.
You're not going to tell me how 30 years?
Well, my first thing that I made was 1996. So
oh, right.
it will
what
be
was
30
that?
years. So I did this Size by Deceleration album, which I kind of self-released on a CD, 50 copies.
Okay. You got any copies of that left?
I do have one. I have one or two at my house. Yeah.
Are they available on Discogs?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I might after this show, though.
We are going to have a running Discogs count, and we'll slowly add up how much.
I brought all the records I've got available to sell. So
no, it's great because we did think you were going to come and play loads of unreleased stuff.
Yeah.
And then when Max kind of came on board and was saying he's doing this documentary, it became increasingly obvious to you that you needed to pull out all these old records.
I have pulled out a whole bunch of old records, including ones that we've made.
Well, yeah, that's yeah, I've got one on the wall.
Yeah, you have, but I've got one that's not on the wall.
No, exactly. What are you going to start off with?
I'm actually going to start off with the first record that I had out on vinyl, which was on HALFLIFE Recordings. HALFLIFE Recordings 001. It's a remix of a track called Russ by the Suicide Bombers, and it's an Abstrakt Nights remix, and it was 1999.
So wait, Abstrakt Nights is you and...
Me and Sam Ashwell.
Okay, so
and
I'm
at
going
this
to
point there was actually another guy involved at all, but he left. So
I'm going to try and keep a
a running tab on
an
it.
alias. How many aliases do you think you have?
About 11.
Right. Okay.
So I'm only going to play about 4 or 5 of them.
I want to make sure we make sure it's clear which alias and who you did it with, if anyone.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because so shout out to Sam Ashwell, and let's hear this Abstrakt Nights remix.
Perfect.
Jam here this afternoon. I think y'all better get yourself in line. just assembled here to give a little jam here this afternoon.
So that was an Abstract Nights remix, and before we go on, I'd just like to point out that I'm wearing my Colony Productions t-shirt that Mike gave me about 20 plus years ago. And Mike, if we switch the camera to Mike, he's wearing a very fetching hoodie. No, it's
like a windbreaker, also available on the merch store.
So this is, so you go to, where would you go to? colonyproductions.bandcamp.com?
Colony.productions, and then on there you've got a whole different little like icons that you can click, and the t-shirt one goes to the merch store.
Oh wait, so your website is colony.productions?
Correct. Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick.
I like it.
I thought we were clever when we did hoxton.fm.
Same vibe.
You're taking it to the next level, man. But there's also, what else can you get on there merch wise?
Loads.
I got a patch the other day.
Yeah, there's a patch.
But there's some pretty cool merch. And you showed, where's that one off that you had with you? You had like
I put it back in my bag.
You've hidden it away, but he has.
Yeah.
It's like about 1,000 of these figures that I've got on my t-shirt.
Yeah.
But I really like that one. But you've got high standards.
I'm going to do a slightly different version of it that's better quality.
Okay.
And then once it's the right quality, we'll get it out.
Okay.
Everything's about quality.
Do we have time to bring Max in on this? Can we cut to the Max video shot? We've lost Max. Maybe we cut back to me and we try and get Max on after.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Oh, he's there.
We've got his audio.
Hear him.
We just can't see his video. We'll get on to that. But Max, tell us about this documentary that you're doing.
Yeah. First of all, Dan, thank you so much for having me on. Hoxton FM fam. Great to be on today. I have been, following Mike and his project for a couple of years now. We work together in a couple of different ways, and anyone, not just myself, it's clear to see the impact he's made on not just people's careers, but their lives, both as a friend, mentor, label director, and so forth. Speaking with Mike earlier, doing an interview, I'm a music journalist at a music blog here in the States called River Beats Dance. And the more Mike and I spoke, the more we realized that this story has more of a length to it to kind of really talk about, stretch out. Like I said, Mike has been a friend, mentor, and a real collaborator for many. So especially with Mike's situation and medical emergency, which we'll touch on a little bit that happened last year. A bunch of things were kind of just lining up, including 25th anniversary of Colony Productions. So we started putting together work for a documentary called Happy Days, which we're going to be chatting a lot about today. So yeah, really psyched to have me on, Dan. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm sorry we can't get you on the video, but every time we switch over to you, it causes some sort of loop, and I was absolutely certain. But so yeah, you've touched on a few things there, not least a recent kind of health scare that Mike had. Survived. So how do we put this? How do you put it? Because we've sat around the studio all afternoon, not making music, but just catching up.
Yeah.
And you've told me absolutely loads, and like, you know, so much of it is mind blowing. What happened?
Well, basically, I had a brain tumour.
You had a brain tumour,
yeah,
but you've decided to get rid of it.
I got rid of most of it, not all of it.
Like
I got 85% of it is gone.
That's quite a lot.
So it is a lot. Yeah, not enough, but I would have been preferring if we'd gone for the 100%. But
yeah,
you can only do what you can do. So
absolutely, but the prognosis is very promising now.
It's not looking bad. So. And
how has it affected your productivity?
Yeah, I've been on it.
I bet.
I've been on it. So it's made me appreciate, the time is limited. So
yes.
I've got to make the most of it. So.
But I wanted you to come around to the studio a while ago, and you're like, man, this medication that I'm on is not allowing me to be that productive. So I guess you had a bit of time.
It took a little while to get used to it, and work myself back up.
Yeah.
Bit of golf, getting myself back out there. So,
yeah.
But I'm kind of I get tired. I mean, everyone gets tired, but I get a little bit more tired maybe. So,
right.
But yeah, I'm there.
No,
but this is important, so I was like, I'm gonna get myself ready.
No, it's like really.
I got up at midday, so.
No, it's really good to get you in. I see. It's not just golf; it's pétanque as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was playing pétanque. Yeah, in my little league. So yeah,
yeah.
5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
So got some hip hop going on.
Yeah,
that's not one of mine.
I think Paul is trying to add Max in, and it's like causing gremlins.
Yeah, I think we're in the loop that you were talking about.
Yeah, this is what I tried to avoid. I thought we could do it, but
yeah,
it's just cameras in the studio is the best way to go. So what have you got for us next?
So I thought, since we started with the first one, I've moved to the second one, which isn't what I intended to do, but it seems to make sense. So this is another Abstract Nights track. It's Half-Life 2, so from 1 to 2. So this was our first full EP, and this came out in 2000. And this is called... Oh, we went all out for this. This track is called Abstractions. So,
nice.
You ready for it?
And so after this track is finished,
yeah,
you're going to get Max in to start asking like a question or two.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we weren't going to do the chronological thing. We might move backwards and forwards.
We're definitely going to be moving backwards and forwards, but I just thought, having started with 1, I'd move to 2.
Absolutely.
Because it's easy.
No, absolutely.
Perfect.
We've totally got this all under control now. There's absolutely nothing going to go wrong from this point onwards. So I think we now have Max's video. Let's see if we can go to Max's video. Hi, Max.
Hey, Dan. How we doing?
Yes, we are cooking with gas. Right, great. We've got your video on. So do you want to start with a question for Mike?
Yeah,
We've
definitely.
got 27,
So,
yeah.
let's bring it from the top, I guess. So you guys are calling in from Kensington, London. That's correct?
Yes.
That's funny because I'm calling in from Kensington, Maryland, not to be taken with the Kensington, Philly, which is a slightly different neighborhood than I'm in
Exactly.
right now.
We're not going to mess with Kensington, Philly.
No, definitely not. So, Mike, how far away from here in Kensington did you grow up?
Sorry, what was the
How
question?
far away from Kensington did you grow up?
Oh yeah, pretty far. I'm a Surrey boy.
So Mike is based in Surrey, which is like southwest of London.
Yeah.
And ironically, I went to university in the town near where he was living.
Yeah, which is how we met.
Yeah. So how long ago was that? That was like 2003 or something.
Yeah, 2003. Yeah.
So I graduated university and I wanted to make music and I didn't know how, and I figured that booking days in the studio with Mike is the way forward.
That is true.
Right on. So, Mike, what was it like growing up there?
Yeah, it was nice. I had like a pretty easy, good childhood. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Definitely.
And at what point during your childhood or even teenage years did you come to realize that you and music had a kind of a special connection, or more or less your first profound experience that you have with music?
I mean, I think like when I was probably like maybe 8 or 9, I remember being in my garden and my mum gave me this like Walkman with I had one tape, which was a Beatles tape, and that was it. And that I just like used to walk around with that on all the time. And I think that stuck with me for a long time. And then when I was about 12, there was this little shop in New Malden, and I remember going in there and I bought my very first record, which was a De La Soul 7-inch. And honest to God, the reason I bought it was because I liked the colour of the cover. And that was basically what got me into it. I had no idea what was on the record. I just bought it because I liked the look of the cover. Got home, had listened to it, and was like, I'm into hip hop. So that was
flower power kind of.
Yeah. It was like the the Pre I Know was the next one I bought. So it was like it's a wicked little 7-inch. It's a really, really good one. So I've still got it to this day. I didn't bring it. I should have brought that. So.
Do you have any tracks, whether it's like one of the earliest ones from that time, that you might want to play for us?
No, I didn't bring one. That's what I was just saying. I should have brought that record with me, but I didn't. So.
Any other ones like that you can really? Like,
No, because I only brought one bag of records, and yeah, I mean I've got like 3,500 at home, but unfortunately I can't access them.
Mike was telling me some crazy stories about throwing records away.
Yeah.
And regretting it.
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Anyone that's thinking about throwing records away,
hold on to them.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I tracked. So I had like a whole bunch of Colony stock that I just never thought it was ever going to be like going anywhere. So mistakenly decided to skip it a few years back, and then after that realised that there was a value in it because vinyl kind of got popular again, and now I could just literally resell it all, but it's too late because I skipped it. It's gone.
But there was that period where like just records were not.
They just weren't moving. So, other than me moving them from house to house as I moved, which was a total pain because they're very heavy. So, but apart from that, yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, during your time growing up, what was the state of like the country? What were some things going on, not just personally?
Well, skateboarding was in. That was the main in my life. That was basically the only thing going on. So, skateboarding, listening to tunes, hanging out, going to school. And yeah, that was basically it. So.
Right on. And who were some of the defining musicians at the time, besides the one you just might have mentioned?
Well, I mean, I shouldn't really be saying this, but I was a big fan of Debbie Gibson and Kylie Minogue, but probably not for their music. So, but again, that's the way it is. So, Neighbours was a big thing in the UK when I was a kid.
So that was a soap opera.
Yeah. Kylie Minogue was in Neighbours before she was a pop singer.
Australia's finest export was a soap opera.
Well, apart from Home and Away.
So there were two rival soap operas on different stations in the UK. And they just, when you were a young kid, you just looked at like the hot women on there.
Yeah, Kylie Minogue was the one.
The two rivals.
Well, there was Baywatch as well.
Yes.
So
it was our version of
there was a few little things that went on.
It was Australia's version of Baywatch. But
yeah, it was some funny stuff.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it was good.
It's interesting you mentioned
Good times.
skateboarding because I feel like skateboarding has very much so been a mechanism to expose people to new music as well, and to really translate an emotion for that. What are some other kind of platforms, whether it's local venues, radio shows, and please be specific,
I mean,
for helping kind of communicate the top tunes of the moment during your teenage years? And
well, that's the thing. In the UK, you've got to be 18 to go out. So back then, there wasn't really much going on. If you were under 18 or from about 16, you could go out. But if you were under 16, then basically it was listening to tapes or like listening to pirate radio. It was like the way that you would hear stuff. Like you didn't really go to, there was nothing to go to like check this stuff out because you just weren't allowed to go. So I think the first time I started going out like properly was when I was about 16. I went to this thing called Whirligig, and like that was in Old Street, which was literally
East
epic.
London.
Yeah, East London. And those were good times. But that was like, a few years after I'd bought that De La Soul and was skateboarding. So when I was still skating then, but I was still listening to De La Soul as well. Probably stopped watching Neighbours.
Which pirate stations were you listening to?
There's a few. So it was like Flex FM. There's a couple that I played on with this guy called Chris. And so it's Chris and Ed and me used to go. And like, you basically pay a $5 and they let you play. Yeah, subs. Yeah. And it was good times. It was good times playing like hardcore. And like, I was spending all my money. And there was a shop called Troublesome Records in Kingston. And like, basically, I spent every penny that I had on buying records in there. And they had you over a barrel because they had this thing going on where everything was like under the counter, white labels. So now I just have like hundreds and hundreds of records that I don't even know what they are. And like at the time, I just spent all my money on them. And now I wish I just waited. Because ironically, if I'd waited a couple more weeks till they actually came out and they had covers, they'd be worth more money. But having the white labels is just really confusing because you're just like flicking them on and being like, what is this? I can't remember what it is. Trying to look up little catalogue numbers on Discogs. But
you mentioned mixtapes.
Yeah.
Can you explain, like maybe for the Americans, our mixtapes where you get like a big pack of tapes?
Yeah, totally.
They might have all been recorded at a rave.
Yeah, they're basically like the raves that we weren't allowed to go to. They would record the sets and then they put them out on these cassette packs. So it'd be like everyone that DJ'd that night, and you'd get like, whatever it was, whether it be World Dance or whatever it was, and then you could buy basically the music that got played that night on a cassette.
So as a kid who couldn't go, you could kind of transport
You could
yourself.
you could imagine that you'd been. So.
And the sound quality on those?
Wasn't great. I mean, like, it's ironic because like they're obviously like sampled recordings, but it's still to a cassette. And then they were like copied from cassette to cassette. It's a bit like, by the time you copy a VHS multiple times and you watch like I remember getting like Star Wars like early when the second set of Star Wars came out, and the version I had was about 4 iterations in. It was like almost just like watching like blackness for like an hour and a half. Yeah. Beyond grainy. It was pointless.
But did you ever try and like you hear tracks on those mixtapes and then you try and find the record?
Yeah, which is also not that easy.
But then when you find the record, it doesn't sound like the mixtape.
No.
Because the saturation on the tape and stuff.
Yeah, and
so
also there was a period of time where radio, like even like Kiss FM, had like some good shows. So you could actually record stuff like off the radio, and it was just a normal thing. Like you would record like a set, if Bookham was playing or someone was playing, you'd record it, listen back to it relentlessly in the car. I mean, I had like this, by the time I was driving, which was like 18, I had this little Ford Fiesta with pepper pots, which is like, basically way big, wheels way too big for the car. Couldn't even turn the car properly because the wheels were too big for it. And then in the back, I just had like home studio, like kind of speakers, like in the boot, plugged into an amp. I mean, it was like chaos. But like by that point, I was driving around playing Snoop Dogg, thinking that I was like the man. So,
laid back.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So Max, have you got another question?
Yeah. So, like, at what point during these teenage years, or whenever it might have been, did you really transition from a fan or casual listener to like, hey, I want to make this stuff myself?
So I went to Kingston College and I did a year of A-levels, and I got told when I went back at the end of the year that it turns out just going to the college wasn't actually the same as attending the classes, and they wouldn't let me into the next year. And so I had like some sort of 14% attendance, even though I had definitely been there all day, every day, just sitting in the refectory and sitting in troublesome records, but that doesn't count. And so they said to me at that point that I couldn't carry on doing my A-levels. So I didn't know what to do. So I ended up doing a GNVQ in business studies, and that was 2 years. And that was like where I actually did go to college. And then I got to the end of that, And there was this kind of thing at that point in time, like, where are you going to go next? You're going to go to uni. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was into music, and I was looking up, and I found this City and Guilds in sound engineering. So I went to City of Westminster, and I basically studied sound engineering for 2 years. And at that point in time, I thought I wanted to go and work in a studio. And then whilst I was doing that course, part of the coursework was that we had to like make tracks. So I kind of got into making tracks, and I met people on that course that also made tracks. And then before I knew it, I'd like already got into the DJing thing. So I knew that I liked what kind of music I liked, but then I actually started learning to use the equipment. And then I remember I had an Akai S3000, and I bought a called Prophecy, and it was just like mind blowing to me what you could do with just the two things.
So you had a
And
sampler and a synthesizer.
a sampler and a synthesizer, and I bought myself this like desktop Mac sort of like thing, but it was pre them even being silver. It was like when they were just like still like white, kind of creamy white desktop things, and I was using Cubase. That's what I started on, and I started putting tracks together. Yeah, and I just kind of fell in love with the idea of making them. So I think the first collection of tunes that I put together was 1996, 1997. So there was like the 2 years worth of tunes. And I made them onto a CD, because at the time, CDs were kind of like, you could press vinyl, but CDs were also in existence. Like, I mean, I have tons of like these mini disc things at home, like full of tracks that were like never quite made it to like getting onto this CD. But ultimately I put this album together, and then that was the thing that I pressed up 50 copies of with a cover and everything. And I sort of handed them out, tried to get myself signed, because back then that was the way it was done. You know, you basically just desperately tried to get onto a record label. And so I handed them out, didn't ultimately get that signed. I thought for a short while I was going to get it on, like 4 of the tracks off it onto RNS, but it never actually happened. But luckily, one of the people that I gave that to was Dave, and then we ended up doing the crunch stuff together. So it kind of like led onto it.
How did that happen? Like you
Well,
gave it to him. How did you get it to him?
So what is weird, because I actually knew Dave anyway, because we'd known each other since we were 4, because we'd basically grown up together in the sort of same neighbourhood. We'd gone to the same schools. I'd gone to Kingston College, he'd gone to Richmond College. He'd basically gone there, started making tunes. I'd gone to Kingston College, done the same thing, got into DJing, like DJing student nights, got into making tunes. And then we both independently got booked for this thing called Reproduction in Holborn at the Leisure Lounge. And we went there, and we were both in the green room, and we saw each other, and we hadn't seen each other in years. And he was like, "Oh, what are you up to?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm DJing and the thing." And I was like, "What are you up to?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm DJing as well." I was like, "Brilliant." And then we got chatting, and then Sam, who I was doing the Abstract Night stuff with, his sister was there, and Dave was like, "Who's that?" And I was like, "It's Sam's sister." And he was like, "Could you introduce me?" I was like, "Yeah." And then we agreed that we would meet up and like play each other the tunes we'd been making. So he'd started Feel Records. He played me some stuff. I played him my album. At the time, he wasn't really into the down-tempo stuff, but I played him it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I like it. We should do some stuff together." So he came over to my house. We wrote a track together in my mum's sort of dining room where I had my studio set up. And we did that track. It went really well. And at the end of it, he was like, "Yeah, you should come up to my studio and we should do some more." And then we started working together on Fridays. And that was like, because at the time there was these chocolate bars called Crunchies. And so we were like, well, if we were just doing it, was like the slogan was like, "Thank Crunchy, it's Friday." And because we were working on Fridays, we were like, let's just call it Crunch. And so we like did that. And we ended up writing an album at the same time in tandem to him writing The Critical Path timeline wise. And then we just kind of went from there. So I was doing the Abstract Night stuff already with Sam. So that stuff had started coming out. And the one I'm going to play next is like the third EP. So we'd sort of done that remix, then we'd done the Abstractions EP, then this was actually the second EP, and then all on HALFLIFE. And then at the same time I was doing that, I was also writing this album with Dave, the Crunch 1 album, and we were trying to get that signed. And ironically, his manager at the time, Richie, sent it as a demo to MUSIK STROM, which was Funkstrong's label, which is one of the same people that I'd sent my album to that they didn't sign. And they said that they liked it, they were interested, came over to London, they were from Germany, came over to London, met us, went out for lunch with them, and they were like, "Yeah, really interested in signing this album." And we were like, "Great, because we're really interested in putting the album out on your label." And they were starting with Studio K7, so it was all kind of falling into place. And whilst we were at lunch, I was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I sent you a demo a little while back for an album." like, did you ever listen to it? And they were like, yeah, we listened to it, but there was definitely something missing. And then Dave just went, yeah, me. And I was like, fuck, because he was right. So that was that. So yeah, so they actually got my demo 3 years before they ended up getting the demo for the Crunch thing. So that was the timeline of difference from when I first saw Dave. It took us like basically 2.5, 3 years to get that album done. And we actually signed it with them in 99, which was the same time that we were putting out that Abstract Night stuff. But by the time that they actually got it out, it was almost like 18 months later, because they artworked it, mastered it, did everything they needed to do. And the whole thing was a slower process back then.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like as instant. Like now you can literally write a tune in the morning and by the afternoon it's up on SoundCloud and people are listening to it. Back then there was a massive, delay.
A lot of
between
units
doing
have
it.
been sold back then. So the thing is, it was slower, but
It was slower, but
physical copies.
it
lots
was.
of people have been
But
buying records.
I will say we never saw anything out of that. We basically got 500 quid when we signed the albums to them and never saw another penny. So given like that they re-released it a few years ago, and I don't know how popular it was, but like it is funny like how back then it just wasn't about the money. That was just nothing to do with it. It was about the kudos of like actually having a record out. That was the main thing of it. That was what was important.
So you were working with Tipper. You were working with
Yeah, so I was working with Sam first.
Sam.
Yeah.
And was there anyone else at that point? It was just those two.
So it was me on my own, working with Sam. There was another guy called Daniel Pollard, who is a good friend of mine. He actually did the guitars on quite a lot of the Abstract Nights tracks. And we were trying to work together doing something. We never actually released any of it, but we were trying to do this kind of like, a bit like, I don't know if you remember Air, but that was like the sort of vibe that we were trying to go for. Never quite got there, obviously, but we gave it a good go. But he's featured on quite a lot of the Abstract Night stuff. And there's a few people that we were kind of like working around, and there was different people I tried to write drum and bass with, because I desperately wanted, because I was so into drum and bass, I desperately wanted to like write drum and release drum and bass, but I just never quite got the mix downs, never quite got it. So a lot of my stuff would start out as a drum and bass track, and then eventually I'd get fed up at some point, half time the beats, and then it'd become down tempo, and that was basically how I ended up writing down tempo music, because it was like failed liquid drum and bass basically.
But there was so many people. Like,
it was
so many
prolific
talented
at that time,
people in drum and bass at that point in the UK.
It was
It
was a really, really difficult time to like break into it, because it was like there was so much going on and it was such good quality, and like I say, the barrier to entry was really high, and I almost feel like at that point you needed to like know somebody like at the label to even get like listened to, because everybody was like making tracks and sending demos.
Not like now where it's a meritocracy.
Yeah, totally. So I mean, at that point I think that's probably why I ended up starting a label, because having done the experience of like giving away an album, not really getting anything back, being with the Abstract Night stuff on HALFLIFE, never really seeing anything from it, I think at that point, after we'd had that experience, I was like, do you know what? Like, it's probably easier just to start a label, and then we can just like self-manage the whole thing, and we don't have to like go through anyone else, because then there is no one else to go through, because it's us doing it. So when I first started the label, although it's like a long, long time ago, it's like 2001, initially Dave and me started the label together, but ultimately I got sent a demo at some point by this guy 7ARC, and at that point I wanted to start releasing other people's music as well as the crunch stuff on the label. And at that point Dave was like, well, I'm already involved with Fuel Records, I don't want the hassle of another label. And so it wasn't what we'd sort of initially set out to do, because originally it was just going to be us, and he was like, I'm just going to like let you get on with it, and so you can keep putting the crunch stuff out, but I'm just not going to get involved with the label, you take it over. So he stepped away from it and I took it on, and then that's basically how it was run the whole way through, except for there was a period of time. So I ended up having a daughter in 2007, and I took about a 3 or 4 years sort of step back at that point, because she was very little and there's only so much time in the day. And Sam, who had done all the Abstract Night stuff with me, who was also by that point half event with Dan Havers, stepped in and took over more of the day-to-day stuff on the label to keep it going. And then about 2011, 2012, I'd split up with my daughter's mum by then, and we sort of moved back the other way, and I ended up taking over the label sort of day-to-day running again, and we went from there. Should we get another track
Let's get
on?
another track on, because the camera's decided to die.
Right, we're doing it.
I love how we're being full Mancuso on this, playing the entire tracks. Anyone who's trying to rip these off of the stream, don't bother. You can just go to the Colony Productions Bandcamp. Have you got all this? I wonder if Mike's got all this stuff on as he queues up the next record. We'll ask him in a second. But Max, are you there?
Yep.
What's your next question for Mike? Have we covered things up to this point? Okay. Is there anything we've?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, we can go jump around a little bit. I did want to chat about some of those milestones that Mike just previously mentioned before that last track. So that was a crunch track, right? What did you just play, Mike?
No, so the last one I just played was Abstract Nights Arizona, which was on our second EP. But again, it's that same, like at the time, it's that same similar vibe of like glitchy kind of like, I don't know what it is. It's like glitchy, like electronica, really.
Well,
but like we weren't the only people doing it. It was like that crossover between trip hop and electronica, really.
But by the time that I met you, you were like so much further along on like the glitchy stuff.
Totally, and I was like really like, I mean, you'll see like with the Abstract Night stuff. I mean, I'll play a crunch track next, but like I'll play some other Abstract Night tracks. But we got heavily into the electro. So me and Sam. Later on, we were Abstract Nights first of all, but then we ended up being Sci-Spy and Diagoro. And then the stuff I did with you was Sci-Spy and Formless.
Yeah.
So that was like where that electro influence had come in by then. And I think, again, that's because of the sort of sets that we were playing. So it's like a sort of a feedback loop of where you're DJing, what the crowd actually wants, and then you start making more music that fits into your sets. So, you know, you're kind of playing your contemporary stuff, but you also want to have your own tracks in there as well.
Were you guys like, so I'm interested in two things, like how you've evolved with like the different influences of people you've collaborated with, but were you kind of building a crew or like a community?
Well, when we were in Kingston, so Sam was at Kingston University doing sound engineering, and I was at City of Westminster doing sound engineering, and we played with like, it was like a student night basically that was going on in Kingston, so like uni student nights, and there was a whole crew of us that were like playing at various pubs and clubs down there. And that was predominantly hip hop. So it was like always that hip hop vibe. But then as things started getting sort of more popular and we were doing like other stuff, we started playing in London a lot more. And London was much more the breaks and electro scene. So then there was this crossover. But because I was like into the hip hop sounds and the scratching, that kind of always like came through. And there's another friend of ours, James, who at the time was writing sort of like two-step, like under the name Blofeld. And he did a lot of the scratching in like the Abstract Night stuff. And like, I think there was like a whole bunch of us that were all mates, that were all kind of making tunes. And when we were younger, when we first, like I got a set of decks when I was about, I think 16 was when I first got my decks. And it was like a real sort of competition internally between all of us to learn how to scratch, like learn how to mix, who could get this, you know, the tunes. And we would literally sneak off to like go and buy records without telling each other, because we desperately wanted to get that promo that wasn't even really a promo. But we were desperately trying to get it like the week before one of our like little crew would get it. So there was quite a sort of tight knit of us that were doing it. And like, to be fair, my scratching's never been good, but it wasn't terrible back then. It's just got like, everyone else just got way, way better. So there was, I think that's what kind of, in the end, that's why I gave up doing it, because I could see how good everyone else was getting. And again, Sam was never really into the scratching thing. It was more like Jimmy, Dave, there's another friend of ours, Jem at the time. They were like big on the scratching and the technicals like stuff. And I think I just got more into the production side and like having the sort of fun and getting into like the mixing side of it. But again, my mixing wasn't great either, I'll be honest. That was the thing with belt drives. Like once the Technics came out and we had like, we could afford to get direct drives, it was a whole different game, because then if you actually like, you know, got the mix right, it would hold. But on a belt drive, you were like touching it like 24 like.
But wait, you weren't learning to scratch on a belt drive?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. When we first started, I mean, that's all we had. So
I mean, beat mixing was hard on belt drives, but scratching.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing is, you know, you work with what you've got.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the reality of it. And like, I wasn't going to wait 2 years to try and learn how to scratch. I was just going to get on with it. And like, I think the thing with the belt drives, I found it was more the issue with the belt drives was the mixing, because you'd like get a mix in and it would just swing out and there's like nothing you can do about it. So in a weird way, it's good because it teaches you timing. Like it's actually better to learn when it's harder, and it's like, because these days you can literally like learn to mix so easily that you lose the art of actually like picking up quickly when something's going out of time. because
Yeah.
you don't really have that experience. And then if you're out and it does happen, you
You know what
genuinely
to
don't
do.
know. Yeah, you don't know if you've not had that experience. You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So you can't tell if it's going slightly too fast, slightly too slow, because
Yeah.
you just know it's not right. Whereas like we learned very quickly, if it was going slightly too fast, you have to slow it down. If it was going slightly too slow, you have to speed it up. But it's a skill that you have to learn. It's not something that's just naturally, like, I mean, maybe for some people, but for me, it was a skill I had to learn. It wasn't just something that I naturally got. So,
Max, have you got another question?
Definitely sounds tough. So Mike, whether music you're making with Abstract Nights or Crunch, was this kind of groundbreaking material? Were you guys going against the grain in any way? You mentioned that DMB was highly prolific at the time, but how did this new music kind of land in the scene, and how was it received?
I think at the time I was very heavily influenced. Like trip hop was a movement anyway in the UK. So I think the Abstract Night stuff, what I think we were doing was just like similar, very similar to the other like trip hop kind of stuff that was there. And then we probably started making it a little bit more glitchy than other people were early on. I don't think that many people were like bringing in the scratching at that point and like actually putting it on the record. So like people were scratching, but they weren't necessarily scratching and recording it into the tracks. And then with the crunch stuff, I would say that we were more like influenced by like what was going on with Warp Records. So there was like a whole bunch of artists on Warp Records that were also doing very similar like Prefuse 73, like hip hoppy sort of glitchy stuff. And I think at the time we sort of slotted nicely in with all of that stuff. And like Funk Strong and Musical Strong were also doing lots of glitchy stuff. So I think it was like, it wasn't that we were doing something that was like completely different to everyone else. I think we were just doing what everyone else was doing, but well. So I think that's the honest truth of it, because there's lots of like not good music. That's the thing you've got to bear in mind. I mean, I heard the other day it's something like 160, 200,000 tracks. I know that's a big difference, but like depending on the day, anywhere between 160 and 200,000 tracks uploaded per day at the moment, which is insane. And there was a lot less back then because of this like barrier to entry of actually making a track, but there was still a lot of music coming out, and a lot of it wasn't great.
True.
And unfortunately, I own about 1,000 of those records. So
Not the ones you trashed.
yeah, not the ones I trashed.
Trashed the good ones.
Exactly, I trashed the good ones. And kept a bunch of stuff that I really should have got rid of. You live and you learn.
Play some Crunch?
Yeah, absolutely.
Takes us here to take
Like it's cool to see how like both of you and Dave's trademark sound in its infancy like that, because I can hear both of your kind of aesthetics in there. And
I mean, his cutting has been basically that good since then, because we did that track in 1999.
Yeah, but even just like referring to like the sound design and comparing it to today and how it's grown, you can still hear it. So that it's really cool to see that reflection. Mike, I'd love to now chat a little bit more about your inspiration behind Colony. It sounds like part of your desire to start Colony was from a bad experience you had with his record label?
It wasn't that I had a bad experience. It's just that, like, the record label that I was originally on was HALFLIFE Recordings, which was basically run by a friend of ours called Wrong Tom. And he was a super cool guy, but it was a really small label. The second experience was like Studio K7, which were a much bigger label. It was like more of an industrial machine at that point. And although it was really cool that the record was like pressed and it was like, you know, on double gate, like gatefold vinyl, it was on CD, you could go into HMV and buy it. So there was that kind of coolness to it, but it did leave a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth that we didn't actually get paid for it, because ultimately they advertise and there's like a huge cost to actually producing it. So by the time that it actually comes down to it, you get your advance and then there's nothing more. And there's no one that you can call up really and be like, yo, what's going on with that? It just didn't feel like it was like a homey thing. And at the same time, as you've got to bear in mind that we actually put out the Crunch One album anonymously, so we didn't actually name check ourselves because it was written in tandem whilst Dave wrote this. And
the
so
critical part.
Yeah, he'd done this on this is my promo copy, and he'd done this on High Ground, and part of the deal was that he was signed to like a 4 or 5 album deal or something. So we didn't want the crunch stuff to be like sucked into that, like, you know, sphere of what he was supposed to be doing. So it was just easier at the time for us to do that anonymously, which is why on the back it just says DAT and MCW. So it doesn't actually have our names on it, it's just got our initials. And we just kind of slipped it out. And I just thought, well, as cool as that was, I'd also seen how easy it was, or not easy, but I'd seen that it was possible just for like one person to like run a record label, because my friend Tom was doing it. And I thought, well, actually going forward, like rather than giving more stuff to other labels, although we did give some stuff to other labels, I thought I'd have a go at doing it myself because I was interested. And I'd done my GNVQ in business studies. So I was thinking, well, I mean, I've done the sound engineering, I can write tunes, I've done this GNVQ in business studies, maybe I can run a business as well. So that was the thinking behind it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And how soon after, was your main intention just to release your own music, or when did you kind of have the idea that you wanted to release other artists as well? Was that always the case? No. So it was 100% designed so that it was just going to be an outlet for me and Dave to put the crunch stuff on. We did the Laurel EP, so we did the album, then we signed another thing to a label called Delicatessen, which was the Crunch 10-inch. That actually came a little bit later, but it came out a bit later, we'd already done it. And then we did the Laurel EP on Colony, which was Colony 1, which I'll play something of later on. And then we did the Crunch 2 album, which was Colony 2. And then we did this video, this bit hop video thing, which was Colony 3. That was all just us. And then somewhere along the lines there, this guy sent me a demo on CD. And I remember getting it in my flat, the flat that we wrote those tunes in Kingston. And I remember getting it, putting it on, and just being so excited. I've got one of his tunes here as well, which I'll put on as well.
But I was so excited when I heard his music. I was like, oh my God, this is sick. And so I actually rang him. It turns out he was in South Africa. I rang him in the middle of the night, and his mum answered the phone and was like, you know, what's up? And I was like, yeah, I'm looking for this, you know, this guy. And she was like, yeah, it's the middle of the night, like, call back tomorrow. And I called him back the next day, and I was like, yeah, I got your demo, I love it, like, I'm really interested. And he was like, well, I'd love to put it out, because he was a fan of the crunch stuff. And that's when I hit Dave up, and I was like, look, this guy sent me this demo, it's this 7-octave demo, I really want to put it out. And Dave was just like, yeah, I'm not really into that, so if you want to do that, then just take the label and do that, and like, we'll just keep putting the crunch stuff out on it, but like, you can actually handle the running of it. I don't really want to get involved. And Dave was heavily involved at that point in Fuel Records, which, to be honest, I also wanted to do a release on, which I never did, but it is what it is. So
It's funny, so you had an Instagram DM him, huh?
huh
You couldn't shoot an Instagram DM down to South Africa back then.
No, I literally, he put a number. So like, I was saying this to Dan earlier, it's funny because like, the record that I'm about to play, like, the label on it has his mobile number on it, which is the same mobile number that he's got now. Like, and this was what, 2006, 2003 to 4, it's around that kind of time. But it's the same mobile number. But that was the standard thing back then. You would like just put your number on the records and give it, like, go into record shops, give it to DJs, press up dub plates at, you know, ridiculous cost for the time, write your mobile number on it and go to a club and give it to them before they were playing and be like, do you want to play this track? And like, that was just the norm. Like,
I mean, I still do that now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do that, but like, that is definitely the norm back then. You know, you just put your info on and you just do your best to get people to play your music. So
I'm going to super quickly give a little insight onto this track.
yeah, so this is a track that Dan and I did together.
So I was going to Mike with all these ideas and saying, I want to do music differently. I want to do it where it develops and stuff. And Mike was very agreeable with everything. And I was trying to bring in different people. And I brought in this rapper. And we basically put together this like hip hop track. And he was there. He was like doing all these like...
His name was IQ.
But it just didn't quite sound right. And eventually we kind of had to send him away and just say, all right, thanks. And then I was sat with Mike. I was like, I think Mike said, we've got 3 hours left in the day. That's you know, nothing more after that. And so I was like, man, I just don't know how we're going to make this not sound whack. And Mike just looked at me and went, leave it with me. And this is the result. And this has got Mike's fingerprints all over it.
You ready?
Right on.
One two yo 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 1 2 yo 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 1 2 yo 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 1 2 yo 1 2 1 2 bring with the sick bring child to that and now he like the city and that round the city like bring child to round with the city like bring child to the bill back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody yeah when I put on the map yeah when I put on the map yeah when I put on the map back on the track the track the back hit you with back trying to back here hit you rich back trying to here hit you with back trying to hit you with here hit you with rich back that bill that and round bill that bill that the clever 2 1 up that bill that and round bill that bill that the clever 2 1 up that and now 2 round bill 1 up bring 1 child 2 clef 1 up the pay that round 1 round 1 up bring 1 child 2 clef 1 up the bed pay back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody back on the track the rhythm baby of the tight back on the track tight keep melody that bill that and round bill that bill that the clever 2 1 up that bill that and round bill that bill that the clever 2 1 up that bill that and round bill that bill that the clever 2 1 up that and now 2 round bill 1 up bring 1 child 2 clef 1 up hey, that round up, one round up, one up, brain, one child, you cleft, one up, hey, that still, that cleft, you one up, that still, that still. Hip hop, put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Hip hop, put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. Hip hop, put your hands in the air. Put your hands in the air. The city like put your hands in the never rhyme. The city like put your hands in the air. The city like in the air. Never rhyme. The city like put your hands in the air. Back on the track, the rhythm, baby, hold it tight. Back on the track, Tai Chi melody. Back on the track, the rhythm, baby, hold it tight. Back on the track, Tai Chi melody. Yeah, when I put dope on the map. Yeah, when I put dope on the map. Yeah, when I put dope on the map. Back on the track, the track, back, yeah, when I put map, dope on the map. Get me back, time, yeah, when I put map, dope on the map. Get me back, get me back.
What a blast from the past. I think Mike was saying, when did I last listen to this? I've listened to it fairly recently because I'm always trying to work out how I could use it in a documentary or something that I'm putting together. But it's quite bleak and dystopian. Mike thinks it was ahead of its time. But I don't know if you think, Max, that's got Mike's fingerprints all over it.
I can't hear his trademark sound particularly on that, but it also sounds different from some of the stuff he's making today.
It's the chopping up of the vocals, because they really needed chopping up because the lyrics are so bad.
It's funny, Dan. You said that it's the relentless pursuit of making music not suck, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mike, Colony Productions was advancing. It sounds like there came to a point where you decided to kind of put the crunch stuff to the side. And what happened kind of after that? Did that directly transpire into the Osmetic project, or
No. It was more. So basically, I think it was 2003, we came out to Miami and we played at this thing called Pick Your Perversion, which was this massive show. It was like really, really cool. It was loads of electro, loads of like this kind of like electronica, like IDM stuff. And the next time that I got booked to come out was like 2006. But Dave had quite a following in the States early on. And he actually met someone out in the States, so he moved. So he basically left me, is the honest truth. He moved to America, fell in love, and then I met my daughter's mum, and we ended up falling in love, although you wouldn't believe it, but it's true. And so we fell in love. I ended up having a baby, and so just life just kind of happened, basically. And then we ended up, he was like concentrating on his solo thing. I pretty much stopped doing music for like 3 or 4 years and wasn't really writing tunes at all. And then it wasn't until, I think about 2011, 2012, I sort of got to a place where my daughter was a little bit older and I was missing it. And like, I just thought, you know what, I want to get back out there. I want to start playing tunes again. I want to like, you know, start making tunes again. And I remember I was like, so Sam, who I was doing the Abstract Night stuff with, he'd started doing this thing called Vent, which he'd been putting out on Colony, and Dave was playing a lot of the Vent stuff. And I was in Spain on holiday with my sister and my brother-in-law, it's a whole bunch of us, sitting on my mum's balcony, and Sam sent me this video of him playing this show. I can't remember exactly where the show was, but like it was like a massive show, and he was doing that embarrassing thing where you stand there and you do like the sort of Jesus cross thing. And I was just like, oh my God, what is he doing? And it was just made me laugh so much. I just thought, you know what, I just want to be back in the crew, like DJing again. And like, it kind of reminded me of how fun it can be out there. And so I sort of got myself out of the slump and just made a decision right then. Yeah, that's it. You know, I'm going to manifest this, get back in there, and started writing tunes. So I started doing more kind of, at that point, I was doing like more down tempo stuff. And we were releasing people like Crossbow, Mouldy Soul. And then the UK glitch hop movement was starting to happen. all at the same time. And there was a festival called Glade Festival, and they hit me up and they were like, oh, we want to do, because to be honest, off the back of the vent stuff, they'd had some really big tunes, which obviously were on Colony, and they basically hit us up and they were like, we want to do like a label takeover at this Glade Festival in this UFO stage. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So I sorted out a lineup for that, and at that point I was like, okay, I think I'm going to DJ it as well. And it just so happens that a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so before that, I'd actually met Ben for the first time, and he told me that he was a scratch DJ. And because I hadn't DJed in so long, I was feeling a little bit like, it was a little bit of anticipation about getting back out there to what I perceived to be, it's going to be a big crowd there. So, and I hadn't done anything else. I literally was just going straight in on this. So I basically sheepishly looked up on YouTube, like one of Ben's videos, saw that he was actually a really good scratch DJ, and cheekily I just rang him and just said, look, I've got this set coming up in a couple of weeks, like, do you want to come and scratch over my set? Because I thought that it would take some of the heat off me, and quite honestly it was the best decision I ever made, because he rocked up, played an amazing hour of scratching like over my set, and it really enhanced what I was doing. And it just so happened that we met all of the UK Glitch Hop crew at that Glade thing. And then me and Sam and Ben, we were all there. And ultimately that night, I just remember turning around to Ben and saying, yeah, I don't actually want to play a set again without you scratching. And we started this thing called Crimes. So that's what came next. So it was like, Sam was focusing on his vent thing. We'd given up doing the Abstract night stuff, even though we still we literally lived together. But we weren't writing tunes together. He was writing with Dan. And then me and Ben did a couple of tunes together. So we did a remix for 5-1. We did like a solo track, which is just like the two of us. But essentially what we created was like a DJ kind of like duo. So we were just playing all the UK Glitch Hop events. And like the format was like, I played the music and Ben scratched. And that's what we carried on doing. That was where we were at. But just like for context, going back a little bit. So obviously I just played that track, which was Dan and I. But before that, I played that Crunch track. But just to give some context, at the same time that we were doing the Crunch 1 album, Dave was writing The Critical Path, and this is a track off that album, just to sort of give you an idea of what he was doing in his own time. hopefully that gives
So,
some
Mike-
context.
Mike, I want to break into a little bit about how you met Ben, actually. Can you kind of dive into the details of where you guys met and what your first impression of him was?
Well, so basically there is a bit of an age difference between Ben and I. Not massive, but it's like about 12 years. And so it'd be an issue if I was dating him, but luckily I'm not. So basically, my friend used to run a night called Throwdown, which was like a hip-hop dancing kind of event. And Ben was one of the resident DJs there. Ironically, he actually also was one of the DJs doing the same run of like Kingston sort of like residencies that I'd had, but just a decade later, because like I said, we've got the age gap. So he's played all the same places that I like kind of learnt to DJ and played and did the Mill and did like, you know, Backers, all of those. Ben has also done, but like separately. We never did them together because we were like this 10 years apart. But I met him at this thing Throwdown, and then he came to a party at my house, and then we were actually at a house party in France, and that's when I kind of actually got chatting to him. And there is a picture, if you look somewhere on my Instagram, there's a picture of me and Sam. I'm in a red Adidas outfit and Sam's in a black one, and we went as it was like fancy dress. We went as Hip and Hop. It's a terrible picture, big gold chains, you know, caps, the lot. So, but yeah, met there, and then, you know, did the Glade Festival, and then after that it was just a straight run straight into the UK Glitch Shop stuff and doing the crime stuff, and then we played this night Carousel quite a few times, but really that was like our main thing. And then a few years later, we actually, at one of the UK Glitch Shop shows, we met Cursor, and then it was about probably a year after that we got together as the three of us, and we actually did the first KLO tracks, which would have been about 2014 probably. And we'd just done, I think we'd done 4 tracks at the point that Dave was playing Red Rocks for the first time, and I ended up going out to play a set, like a sort of like a pre-party thing as like a favour for a friend. And I went out and played that show, and that was the first time that I played any of the KLO stuff really out at all. And I played them at this show in the States, which I'm trying to think who put it on. So it was Rob Cummings that put it on. I can't remember what the branding was now off the top of my head, but he put the show on. I played those tracks, and I came back from that trip and sat down with Ben and Oscar and said, look, you know, forget doing this EP, we need to write an album. And then we just wrote another 8 tracks, and then that was Acid Scratch, and that was our first.
Wait,
kind
we
of
just
like,
wrote another 8 tracks. Go
yeah,
into that.
we
How
just
long
went
did that
bang.
take?
Not very long. We were just like chucking it. I mean, basically every album that we ever wrote, when there was 3 of us, there's 2 of us now, but when there was 3 of us, so we did Acid Scratch, then we did the X and Y, which was going to be one album. We ended up splitting it into 2 EPs, which one went out on Slug Wife, one went out on Colony. And so the Y one, which is the one that went out on Colony, has Stash Pad on it, which was probably our big tune. And then we took a break from writing stuff for a couple of years, and then eventually we did the 3rd album, which was About Time, and then COVID happened, and then we did another album called Slow Mode. But all of those albums we literally wrote in 2 weeks. So we'd meet up basically at my house or my studio, just write the beginnings of a whole bunch of tracks like together, smash them out real quick, you know, Ben on the cuts, Oscar engineering, me with the ideas, and we just like bang, 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 put them together, and then we finessed them over time, and then just put the album out. So they were really quick, the writing process. And then inevitably, as it turns out, you know, Oscar left, and then me and Ben sort of sat down. Ben was actually living with me at the time, so we sat down and rethought things through. And then I think we put out a 2-track single first of all, then we put out a 3-track EP, and we've got another EP that we're sort of mostly done on now, and we're working towards doing our next full album. So that's kind of how that went. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm very much of the mindset of if Abstract's not coming together quickly, it's probably never going to come together. So just don't waste time. Like,
So you bin it?
I don't bin it, but I just put it in a folder, and sometimes I open it up 5 years later and I'm like, all right, that bit of it's really good.
You
like,
know what
let's
to
take
do with
that
it
bit.
once it's had its
Exactly.
gestation period.
Exactly. And there are tracks. I mean, I often find tracks like on my laptop where I'm just like, wow, that's a really good track. But like at the time I didn't necessarily, I got fed up of it. I'd heard it too many times. And then like, you know, 4 or 5 years later I hear it and I'm like, damn.
And is that why you try and work quickly when you're kind of writing an album and stuff?
Yeah, because I want it to like, I think I prefer working quickly than just taking forever. Like I kind of like it a bit rough around the edges. I think you can overproduce stuff, and like you can almost like produce to the point where the tune loses like what it had, the vibe it had in the first place.
You sanitize its soul.
Yeah, it's no good.
Yeah.
And like I hear loads of people send me demos, and it's just too clean, and it's just too thought through. It's too like preconceived. Like I need a little bit of rawness in there. And like 99% of the time when I'm playing sets, the tracks that I actually play in the sets that I play of ours are not the finished versions. They're the versions prior to the version that we put out. So we have like a version that I have, which is like 90% of the way there. And then eventually we like finesse it, add the little bits and bobs, and then we put it out. But the versions I actually play in our sets are the ones that are just before that last little treatment.
And tell the listeners and the viewers your little secret about when you guys get a bit bored of one of your own tracks.
Yeah, well, it's true. There's quite a lot of tracks because we play them quite quickly. Like, we never really get to the second drop on a lot of them. So sometimes I just like start playing the second half of the tune instead of the first half of the tune. Because like that way it feels like it's a whole new tune, but it's actually just the second half of the tune.
And what did Ben say to you one time?
Yeah, well, there was one time when he was like, when did you do this flip of this tune? I was like, it's not a flip, it's just the second drop. He was just like, damn. So, but yeah, there's a few that we've like, over time we've like VIP'd, but on the whole we haven't. Like, it's just, I know a lot of people do VIPs for their like sets, but on the whole, like we just haven't done it. I think we did do a VIP of Stash Pad eventually, and there's a couple of other tracks that we never actually released that we've kind of carried on working on, and we've done newer versions. But on the whole, we haven't really VIP'd a lot of stuff. We just kind of move on to new stuff.
That's great. I mean,
there's no point in just like endlessly going over the same stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And just before Max asks his next question, we've got a couple of questions in the chat from one person, Traumwelt9.
Nice. Yo.
Are there any Osmetic VIPs remixes that exist, as well as crunch ones or crunch tracks that never made an album?
So I have like a little separate Bandcamp, which I put 2 Osmetic albums out during COVID, just for the fun of it, which I never actually put on Spotify or anything. I don't think many people have heard those. So technically there's two albums worth. Crunch tracks, we basically milked it. So like everything we made, we put out. So
it's all gold.
It's all gold, yeah, all the way through. So there is actually one track that I do have it here on a white label. It's the Other Side of the Crooked Manor release, and I don't think it ever really got the attention it deserved. And I was listening to it when I was flicking through these tunes last night. I listened to it last night, and I was like, actually, that's a lot better than I remember it. I might actually start playing it.
Ahead of its time,
so
perhaps.
Potentially, yeah.
So
either that or I've just got weird taste.
Even though that first question I asked sounded like 3 questions, there is another one from Traumwelt9. Did you finally figure out mixing D&B? So basically with this recent fake SoundCloud page, can we expect releases? Yes,
is the answer. So there's actually a track that was from 2017, which is me and Oscar, which under Cursor at the time, which is Cursor and Fake, which came out, which was Behind This Door, I think it's called. And that did pretty well, but in all honesty, that was 100% down to Oscar's mixing ability, not mine. So we wrote the tune together, he definitely mixed it down. And more recently, I've just done a release which is coming out on Guerrilla Warfare, which is 3 tracks. One of them is a collab with Decline, who's a long-standing friend of mine, and the other 2, so it's Fake.A, and the A is actually Alex Alejo, and it's basically like a collab thing between us. Which started out as a sort of a flip of a Lowly Young track, but ended up being an instrumental because obviously we can't put that out because we'll get sued. So there's that, and then the other track, Colonising, and we did those when we were on tour. We were staying at his for a week, and we just started writing them for a bit of a laugh. So, and I've also been writing some drum and bass on my own, which is more like kind of like liquid sort of stuff, but like I'm still into the drum. I mean, I've never not been into drum and bass, but it's not really where my focus has been musically, but I do like making it for a laugh, and I have like, you know, tons and tons and tons of them. And if you flick through my like that Mike Wallis Bandcamp thing, there's a couple on there. There's one on there with Mortlock that I quite like. I think I might have even put that on that SoundCloud page. But yeah, I've definitely always been into it. I'm definitely always going to make it, but it's not really my focus of where my attention is 99% of the time. But every so often I do try and make a drum and bass track just for the laugh of it.
And was there like an epiphany moment with making drum and bass where you're like, this is what I need to do to make it?
Not really. I mean, I think like over time, I think I've understood more why I was unable to do it earlier on. And I think that the reality is that like the reason I like collaborating so much is like I think there's a synergy that comes when you collaborate with people that you just don't have on your own. And the reality is when I'm working on my own, fundamentally I just want to write down tempo music. And I think that doesn't really translate well to drum and bass. And I think when I work with other people, I'm more in that sort of get up and jump up vibe, and like I want to be in that mood. Whereas when I'm writing on my own, I'm just in a more somber kind of mood, and I just don't think that's great for drum and bass, if that makes sense.
Totally. Max, do you have another question? Whilst Mike pulls out another.
Oh yeah, I haven't actually.
Kind of the
That's a good
first
point.
kind of integration of turntables into electronic forward sets. Was this a novelty item, an introduction, or were people already doing it before you guys?
No, so I actually started when we were doing the Abstract Nights sets. I actually started using Ableton to put together a live set, and it was at that point. So I wrote music in
Logic.
In Logic, yeah, but I was using Ableton. But there's two different screens in Ableton. So there's like the loop screen, and then there's the screen which is like the screen that you like, the Logic one that you would write tracks in. And at that point in time, I only used Ableton as a live set, and we had this whole like electro like live set that I built in there, which we were going to turn into an album and put out on Touching Bass. And at the time, Sam was going out with Andrea Parker, and then they split up, and that deal just fell apart. So, don't date the label manager is the motto there.
Or at least stay with them.
Or at least stay with them
until the release.
So, but I mean, this is another Abstract Nights track, but this is what by the time that we got into electro, but it's before we started calling ourselves Sci Spy and Diagonal, right?
So Mike,
Did you say that we had a time limit? We only have 30 minutes left.
We've got about 30 minutes left, so I'm going to flick through into some of the stuff that's actually come out on Colony more recently.
Cool.
Let me just cue something up.
and whilst Mike's queuing that up, we had another question. Sorry, I've forgotten the name of the person asking the question, but I do remember the question, which is, how many aliases do you have?
I'm not 100% sure, but if you go on MikeWallis.net discography, you can count them.
Yeah, that's. Or Discogs? Could they find, if they found you on Discogs?
Nah, there's not all of them are on there. I mean, I've done a good job at like trying to stay out of the limelight as much as possible.
Everyone I know in the scene I'm into, they're desperate to get all their stuff on Discogs. You're like trying to keep it off there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it off.
Is
Like,
it
you either know or you don't
prices
know.
up higher? Right, so Mike's got, what's this one?
Right, so this, I mentioned Alejo that I've got that those collabs with, the drum and bass ones. So I don't know if I'm on the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
but
on the
this is like we did like 3 records with Alejo, which is the Tough Cut series. So that's the first one. This is the second one, and this is the third one. And we put them out on vinyl last year, which is nice because it'd been a while. It's been quite a gap since we've done a vinyl release. But I'm really proud of those. And yeah, this is one of the tracks on Tough Cuts Volume 1.
Mike is racing through these now. He's just flipping on to the next one. He was saying he thought he didn't have enough records with him, and now he's realised he's got way more music than we have time left.
Because I've been waffling too much.
No, you've been saying some great stuff. There's some great stuff there. Max, have you got a question before we jump into this next one?
Yeah. So Alejo, I mean, when you think of modern glitch hop and artists who are really defining the left field bass space, Alejo is such a pivotal and iconic name. Going back to kind of the beginning of this era of glitch hop and left field bass, it sounds like you said that the festival called Glade Fest kind of marked the launch.
Glade Festival in the UK was a big one, and it was like that that UFO stage that they had that year was seminal. I mean, they had like some really, really good acts on, and I think that really blew it up for all of us. And then after that, the UK glitch hop thing sort of took off, and then we were doing these award shows, and we were like actively, as a collective, we were all like putting nights on, all DJing. And I think that's where like Scope came out of it, we came out of it, Vent came out of it, KLO came out of it. It was just a lot of stuff going on. And I think it was just a really nice time in the UK for that kind of music. Like artists like Grizz were coming over and playing. So I think it introduced us to the Americans and the Americans to us. So it kind of worked both ways.
That's incredible. How did you see the glitch hop scene more or less grow and die in the UK, and then kind of get reborn in America simultaneously? What did that look like?
I mean, it looked great from where I was sitting because I got to go on holiday a lot. But I think like at the beginning, that is kind of how I saw it. It was like more like just going on these like trips, and I'd go for like a week, but I'd only play like one show. I think it only got to the point where we were playing like tours like a few years later. So at the beginning, I mean, like, I think like if we're totally honest, like Dave has always been at the forefront of this kind of sound. And as he started doing bigger shows, and I think for me personally, when he got me out to Swanee in 2016 to do that crunch set, that was like a real moment for me, because that's the first time I'd played to, 6,000-7,000 people ever. So it was like super cool. That was like that was a big moment.
Watching that set on the Colony Productions YouTube last night.
Oh, there you go.
Monumental. So Mike, now I kind of want to direct the focus back directly on you
personally. I think through all these anecdotes that we've shared and your stories with working with other people, one thing is clear, and it's that you've all never hesitated to help others. Was that always natural to you? And how did that eventually turn into you taking up a manager and A&R role with some of these artists you're working with now?
Well, I think for me, like when I meet people, I like to meet people early on in their careers and not necessarily mentor them, but you can just tell like early on when you meet someone if they've got the right kind of work ethic, if they're bringing the right energy. And I want to work with those people, and sometimes people need a bit of direction, and I think if you can just like help them in any way, for me it works, because there's only so much you can do, and I want to stay relevant. And the reality is like a good way of me staying relevant is to work with people that are relevant. And so in a way it's helping them, but it's helping myself at the same time. So it's kind of like a feedback loop of help. That's the reality of it. And I get a lot out of doing it because I like collaborating with people. There's something about a synergy that you just don't get working on your own. If you're solely focused on yourself, it doesn't really work. But I think if you're working with a group of people, it's like that strength in numbers mentality. And that's what I like about the label. I think we've got a really strong roster of people, which I will say, again, I just played that Alejo track. I'm about to play another Alejo track. But he's going to be in Denver. So we're going to do a night at Cervantes, and he is going to headline that night in September. So September the 18th. Definitely come down to that. It's going to be super tight. We've also got a guy called Break, who is coming over from Australia. It's going to be super tight. I don't know if it's his first show in the States, but it's one of his first shows. And he just did an album, Common Factor, on the label, which came out digitally with a whole bunch of collaborators back in December. And we've also got Hooper playing, who did an album for us last year. And then there'll be a special guest coming as well. And you can catch... I'll move on to him in a minute, but let's play another track off Alejo's third Tough Cut series, and then I'll play you something from Crawdad Sniper.
Put the fucking mic on.
So we're conscious we're a bit pressed for time. We've probably got about another 10 minutes left. So while Mike queues up another one, we have had some questions in the chat. We're going to save one until the end. All these questions are from Tranwell. The only question that wasn't Tranwell was Conduit Boy asking about Mike's aliases. So this Tranwell question, Alejo did an amazing liquid breakbeat set after Dave at Secret Dreams. Was a great soft landing. Curious if any of those were the collabs. And Mike's
I don't
answer
believe
is
that they were.
no.
So I didn't hear the set myself, but I wasn't there, but I don't believe they were.
Okay, what have we got coming up next?
So this is Crawdad Sniper, who let me just show you the cover on that.
Tilt it up a bit. Yeah, up. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Tight. And yeah, so this is from the EP Mellifluous, which is the last bit of vinyl we put out on the label. Yeah, check it out.
we're literally down to the last few minutes, so we should probably pass it over to Max with any other questions.
Yeah. Crawdad's such a genius. He's just another name that I think people are going to be looking at in a
Massively. And you can catch him at the Black Box on the 23rd of August.
That's gonna be an awesome show. That's an awesome show. So Mike, we talked a lot about high moments during your career. I want to chat about a recent low moment, which we touched upon a little bit earlier on in the chat, and that's when you had this fateful seizure. Could you walk us through what happened on that day, how the diagnosis progressed, and ultimately how you feel about the music community coming together to support you in this time of need?
I mean, it was kind of random because I'd been out for dinner, and then when we got up to leave, I knew something wasn't quite right because my legs just weren't working properly. And I said to Ben and Kaliana, who were like ahead of me, guys, can you hold up? Like I'm struggling a bit to walk. And then about 15 minutes later, I just had like what they call a grand mal seizure, which is where you basically just completely shut down. And it kind of like, I could hear them. I couldn't see them or anything, but I could hear them. And then after like, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes or something, it kind of like subsided. And I just carried on walking. And Ben was like, what the fuck was that? And I was like, oh, don't worry about it. I just froze up. And he was like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, I just froze. And he was like, yeah, dude, that's not a thing. And I was like, well, I mean, it clearly is because it just happened. And like, just tried to sort of play it down. Got back to where we were staying and then just said, look, I need to go to bed. And then basically I went to bed and just didn't wake up for like, I think over 24 hours. It's like completely like wiped out. I thought I'd had a mini stroke, if I'm totally honest. And so at that point, I phoned a friend and she works as a doctor. She's like a stroke specialist. And I said to her, I think I've had a stroke. Told her what happened. She was like, it doesn't sound like a stroke to me. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Are you sure? Because I've Googled it. And she was like, yes, I'm a doctor. You're using Google. I'm telling you, you haven't had a stroke. So I was like, okay, fair enough. You're probably right. Am I good to fly? And she was like, yeah, you're fine to fly. Like, even if you'd had a stroke, you could still fly. So I was like, okay, cool. So then I had a run of shows. So I had 4 shows over 4 nights. So I did those and then flew to Denver, hung out with Dave for a bit, told him what had happened, said, do you think I should cancel like the rest of my shows and go home? Or what do you think? He was like, no, you should be fine. So I flew to Portland, did another show there, flew back to Denver. Luckily, this show I was coming back to Denver to play got cancelled anyway. So at that point, I just flew home. Went to the doctors when I got back, said to them, I couldn't get an appointment for about 2 days, 3 days. Then I eventually just went down there at 8 o'clock in the morning, said, yeah, I think I had a stroke. And they like saw me straight away. And I said, look, I explained what happened. And I said, yeah, this is, I had this seizure thing. I don't know what to do about it. And they said, well, basically, like, just wait and see if it happens again. And if it does, come back. And I was like, okay, cool. And at the time, I was kind of thinking everything was fine. It had been like 2 weeks since I'd had the seizure at this point. So I was kind of like, okay with it all. And then just as I was getting up to leave, like the doctor casually mentioned that I couldn't drive anymore. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, because you've had a seizure, you can't drive. And I was like, okay, but I mean, I need to drive because I've got a daughter that I need to go and see. Like my whole life, I need to be driving. I can't be not driving. And they were like, well, unfortunately, you just can't drive now that you've told us that you had this seizure. And I was like, there must be some way that we can sort this out so that I can drive. And she was like, well, if you've got the time, we can put you in for an MRI next Tuesday. And then, depending on how that MRI goes, we might be able to sign you off to drive again. So I was like, yeah, cool, let's do that. So I went down to the hospital and they did like a MRI on me and the mood changed after the first time. Then they came back and they said, look, we need to do some contrast. Like, are you okay with that? I was like, yeah, that's fine. So then they injected me with this stuff, had another MRI. And at that point, they told me that I had malignant brain tumor, which I didn't really understand what that meant. So I was like, is that a bad thing? And they were like, yeah, it's a bad thing. They showed it to me on a screen, looked pretty hectic. And I was like, yeah, that's not cool. And called my sister and said, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. She was like, what's up? And I was like, well, the good news is I haven't had a stroke. She was like, okay, that's great. Where are you? I was like, I'm at hospital. The bad news is I've got a brain tumor. And she was like, yeah, that's not funny. And I was like, I'm not joking. Like, I've legit got a brain tumor. I didn't want to tell my mum because I didn't want to worry about her. But my sister insisted that I told her. So I told her. She looked brokenhearted. I know I'm going fast, but this is kind of how it all happened. It was like very quick. And then within a couple of days, I was having more seizures. I think just because I was focusing on it and I was thinking about it. And then I had like more doctors look at me and more people scan me and look at other stuff. And then before I knew it, I was having an operation. They whacked out 85%, and then I was pretty much good to go. But the amazing thing was, it focused me a lot. And like you said, everyone came together. I put out this merchandise, which is this Happy Days merchandise, which everyone was really kind and bought. You know, I had a GoFundMe, which was to like help me for the time that I wasn't going to be able to work after the operation, which again was like really, really good. There was a few benefit shows. By that point, I'd realised I was better than I thought I was going to be. So that money I actually ended up donating to charity. And so I'm working with this charity now, which is the, I can't remember exactly what it's called now, Astro Brain Tumour Charity. So been working with them, trying to get them some money, and ultimately just trying to help people in a similar situation as myself actually get the help they need, and hope that this drug that I've been given, which I've been very lucky to be given, actually gets licensed in the UK, and I can keep taking it, because otherwise I'll have to go back to having like radiotherapy and chemo, which I don't really want to do in a perfect world. But either way, that's in a year's time, because I've got it. Even if they say no in September, I'll get it till next September. So in the meantime, this September, I'm going to come out to Denver. We're going to do this show at Savonse's, and I'm going to watch Dave play his last show at Red Rocks, which is going to be epic, because it's like a full circle moment from when I went out in 2015, 10 years later. Lots happened in the last 10 years. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone in person, because I haven't been back out since I found out I had the tumour back in November.
And just quickly, for context, the prognosis before you went to have the tumour removed compared to the prognosis now, there was a really big difference. So can
Massively,
you just put that in context? So you went under the knife thinking what?
Well, I went under thinking that, one, I might not come out at all, and if I did, I was probably going to be like paralysed on my left side for, you know, maybe 6 months, and with some rehab I might be able to walk. As it happened, I think the neuroplasticity of my brain from previous experiences worked in my favour, and I actually came out pretty much as I went in, so it was good. I mean, I was texting and I couldn't really see exactly the same, which is a bit weird. Like, it looked like everything was written in graph writing, and it was like 3D, but apart from that, I was basically the same person that went in. So it was like, I got very, very lucky.
But they thought what was the prognosis they gave you, like how long you?
Well, because of the size of it, they thought it was like, you know, much later. I mean, I'm a grade 2 astrocytoma, and if it had been grade 4, I'd have been dead in 18 months. And if it had been grade 3, it'd have been like 5 years. So the fact that I'm actually grade 2 gives me kind of like 8 to 15 years. With this drug that I'm on, potentially I could do 20. So it's good times.
So it's quite a big difference.
Massive, yeah. But like, I was kind of like accepting of the situation for what it is. And like, I'm also really lucky that I've had a very full life. And I also feel greatly, you know, lucky that not many people, most people just drop dead. So they never get the chance to experience and feel the love that I felt over the last, 6 to 12 months since everyone found out. So that I'm really lucky to have experienced. But I'm also really lucky that I've been able to tell the people that I really care about and that I really love how much I care about them and how much I love them. Because, like I said, most people don't get that. They just get robbed and, they just die.
Yeah.
And then the people get left behind.
Yeah.
So, although it's been a horrific experience, it's also been a really good experience at the same time. And I know you're not supposed to enjoy something like this, but I have enjoyed it.
But you're rolling with the punches, basically.
I'm rolling with the punches, but it's also like really fun. Like, I mean, you go and you get like these MRIs. Like, I was in there getting an MRI the other day. Like, I've got to the point now where I say don't put the music on, because I actually quite enjoy listening to the MRI machine.
So Apex Twin's new release.
Yeah, totally. So there's lots of things, and the downside is I have seizures, which is like, not great. And like, obviously that's why I can't drive, because if I could and I had a seizure, I'd kill someone, or I'd definitely kill myself and probably a bunch of other people. So there are downsides to it, but overall, I'd rather have a seizure every 2 weeks than be dead. So, in that context, I'm pretty cool with it all. I'm pretty happy with the end result.
I'm assuming you're kind of going into a very prolific period of like releasing music.
Well, I mean, we've done, like, on the label, we've done 12 releases this year so far. And as an average, for the last 24 years, I've released 4 releases a year. So that's the difference in how much I've gauged up. And like I say, obviously we're turning 25 next year, and I want to start doing more of these takeovers. I'm like very focused on, I'm very aware now that I have a finite amount of time. Whereas before, I lived life like it was going to last forever, because you kind of do until you face your own morality, and then you realise that everything's finite, and like we are living in a linear timeline. And I was just like, right, I need to get on it now. So
I think it's
that's
amazing.
where I'm at. Yeah, I mean, I've been super lucky though.
But I think just before you play your last track and tell us about it, from the get-go, every artist you've worked with, you're basically treating them the way you wished you'd been treated at the
100%,
beginning
yeah.
of your career.
Totally.
And even beyond.
But not just in music, but I think in life in general. I think that goes outside of music. But like, if you treat people how you want to be treated, and you go to bed at night knowing that you've done your best that day and you've done the best for the people that you're, friends with or, in love with, whatever it is, then you're always going to be in a good place. But, nobody wants to go to bed thinking I could have done better. Like, that's not cool. So just do your best. That's it. Do your best in whatever you do and you're going to be happy. And that is what life is about, is being happy, which goes back to this happy days thing. And like, the reason, just in case anyone doesn't know, the reason it's like happy days is because for a long time now, whenever like somebody's birthday comes up on Facebook, I just say happy days, because I think it's like a really simple, easy thing to do. It takes 2 seconds of your time, and it just shows people on the day, they're one day a year that they're celebrating their birthday, that there are people out there that are thinking about them. That's all it is. Just think about the people around you. So
Beautiful. Max, do you have anything else to add?
No, Mike, just want to say that
The whole bass community here, and the whole electronic community, we love you. We care about you. We're glad that you're feeling better and that you're on the road to recovery.
Thank you.
Yeah, last, if you want to rattle off any future plans for 2026
Well,
and production stuff.
a little bit. So essentially, I just want to make it clear, like, Dave has done a huge amount for the scene. As much as I might have done a lot, Dave has done a huge amount for me personally, but for the scene as a whole. And he's got a show coming up in September at Red Rocks, like I said, which is like this big full circle moment for me since the 2015 one. And I can't wait to see him off there. And I'd like to end the show with one of his tracks that came out on Colony that really, it's a really heavy track, but it's a super fucking cool one. So thank you, Dave, and thank you everyone else in the community. And I can't wait to see everyone in September. And I will hit play.
So that is the end of the show. Mike Wallis, Colony Productions. What do we call it? Special?
Special, yeah.
25 years.
It was special.
Documentary, live documentary filmmaking.
Yeah. Conglomerate.
It's been amazing having you over, and I'm ashamed to say, if you hadn't had the
That's
health...
the shop I used to shop in, Troublesome
Yeah, yeah.
Records.
I'm ashamed to say, if you hadn't had the health scare, I don't know if this would have happened.
Yeah, I know, which is shocking. But
It is shocking, but like it is a motivating thing to kind of go, right, let's make the most of this.
Yeah, totally.
And it's really inspiring hearing your story and hearing all your music, and how you treat people. So how can people find everything about you online?
So mikewallis.net or colony.productions.
Okay,
And you'll get through to me.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, easy.
And they'll find all your links. They'll
find it all on there.
everything. And what if they want to buy super rare vinyl of yours?
Then they should hit me up on
DM.
Instagram. Yeah, DM me on Instagram.
He might not have thrown all of it away.
No, some of it I definitely will be selling because I do sell it sometimes.
No, that's awesome. We're both wearing our
Yeah, I know. Mine's literally just like
Meta glasses.
ended its thing.
We're
So
getting the behind the
the
scenes
3 minutes.
on our Meta glasses, which we didn't buy just as a gimmick to amuse ourselves.
Yeah,
And we bought independently. We didn't both go to the radio
No.
shop and buy them, but
but they are good though.
they're pretty fun.
Yeah, I like them. I like playing golf in them.
I like climbing in them.
Nice.
Yeah, but then it just
Yeah.
looks like a mad scramble.
Yeah. It's kind of like my golf.
Anyway, why not come back? Come back after September.
Yeah,
Tell
yeah,
us
definitely.
all about September. We can do this again. People seem to have enjoyed it. Or we can do like more of a DJ set. Or,
I'll do a DJ.
Or
I'll come back
something
and do a
in
DJ
between.
set,
We can do
yeah.
an hour of one and an hour of the other. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
totally. Do an hour of this, and then I'll play like a set of like an actual like the sort of sets that I play in the
Amazing.
States.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for coming down.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
And
And thanks, Max, as well.
Yes, thanks, Max, for all the great questions.
Thank you guys. Yeah, thank you for having us.
And yeah, we'll be back next Thursday. I'm trying to think who the guest is. I'm absolutely shattered. It took us an hour to get this thing off the runway.
Yeah, we got there though.
But we got there, and it seemed to be good once it was actually flying. So yeah, great. Thanks so much. Good luck with everything and September, and come back and let us know all about it.
Absolutely.
Great.
Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks.
Take care.
See you guys.
See you later.